Hello and welcome back to the second video in my new Conquer Depression mini-series. And in the first video I talked a little bit about common perspectives on the nature of depression and what depression is. In this video I want to begin talking about the important stuff really, which is how do you get over depression? I mean, that's what people want to know, isn't it? It's all well and nice to talk about the symptoms, what may be causing them, and debate those things, but the crucial thing is, what do we need to do to get over depression? And for me, the first piece is understanding that symptoms are feedback. So if we think about ourselves as one package, we have a physical, mental, emotional and spiritual aspect to us in one complete package. And when we experience symptoms of any kind, they are feedback from that package, from the whole of us. And it may be one or more than one aspect of that physical, mental, emotional and spiritual piece of us. So what we need to begin to do is, rather than looking at symptoms as some nasty invader that's taking over our lives that we just want to lance like a boil, we want to be looking at symptoms as feedback, a tap on the shoulder from this whole of us that's trying to get our attention to let us know that something is not quite right. And when we can understand that, rather than just trying to get rid of the symptoms, we can look at, all right, well, something's not quite right. There's some pieces that I need to put in place. There's some things that I need to change. And in my view, there are 5 areas that are critical. And in my Conquer Depression program, the full program, I talk in more detail about how to address these 5 areas. But in this video here, I just want to explain what they are. And then in other videos, I'll go into a little bit more detail. So the first area is a reconnection with the physical body, because we have become detached from it. One of the issues, if you're a sufferer from depression, you'll know that you'll be very much locked in your mind. You'll find that your thinking goes on and on and on and on. And the conventional way of dealing with that is by challenging your thinking patterns. However, for me, the answer is not challenging our thinking patterns, because that actually often only makes things worse. But what we want to do is begin to reconnect to the physical body, because as a culture we've become disconnected. We've become very mind focused, where we think about everything, and of course this is amplified tremendously when we experience symptoms of depression, as you will well know. So reconnection with the physical body, breathing, being in touch with feeling states, that's our first step. That's the first piece of our puzzle. The second piece is understanding the true nature of emotion, which I'll talk a little bit about in the next video, and the idea that emotion becomes blocked and imbalanced when you're experiencing depression. And it's so important that emotion is allowed or enabled to flow through us. So when our emotion becomes blocked, when it becomes out of balance, then that is the second piece of our puzzle. We have to learn how to reconnect with the emotional part of us, so that we can feel our emotion and allow it to flow. The third part is learning how to feel good about ourselves. I mean, as you know, as a sufferer of depression, the chances are you give yourself a hard time, you beat yourself up constantly, and you feel angry, you feel low, you feel sad, you feel miserable. Your self-esteem is probably rock bottom. And a lot of that is not due to outside events, it's about how you treat you. And the good news about that is that it means you can do something about it. You're not dependent on shifts, changes in the external world. It's about something you can do yourself. So learning to honor, love and respect yourself is a process that you can go through. It's not something that just kind of miraculously happens. There are literally things that you can do to begin to reconnect and to appreciate yourself and to feel good about yourself, because ultimately that is vitally, vitally important. Rather than feeling rubbish about yourself, it's important to feel good about yourself. The next piece is unlocking your passions and purposes, and it's kind of a natural step from learning to feel good about yourself is understanding your sense of direction. And I'll talk a little bit about human needs in later videos on this series. But that idea of reconnecting with passions and purposes, as we get into the body and we feel, we connect to our body, we connect to our emotions, we learn to feel good about ourselves, then what flows from that are a sense of direction in life, a sense of meaning, a sense of fulfillment that comes when we can identify our passions and purposes. And as we connect to the internal wisdom or the internal guidance system that we all have, then we can begin to walk that path on our passions and purposes. And the final piece, the final step as we bring everything together, is really beginning to understand that as human beings, we play an enormous role in the creation of our own life experience, our experience of reality. It's not something that just happens to us. Everything that we do, everything that we say, everything that we look at, everything we talk about, we energetically feed. So we are creating our experience as we move through life. It's not just we're not passive observers of life, as if we're kind of watching life through a window. We exert an energetic impact or influence on everything around us. So when we begin to understand this and we look into it in more detail, we can see how we are the creators of what we're experiencing. And of course, if we don't like what we're experiencing, we can then begin to take steps to experience something else. But that first step is that recognition that this is what I'm creating. This is not something, I'm not a victim of circumstance. I'm creating this myself. So those are the five areas that really need to be addressed in this new way of looking at depression. And when we bring all those together, all those ingredients together, then that's when we experience a life without depression. So I hope this video has been useful. I'll talk more about emotion in the next video, and then human needs and the other area, go into more detail in other areas in later videos. Bye for now.